Hey, y'all. Welcome to the question of the week. I'm Amelia, occupational therapist, owner and founder of Higher Standards Caregiver Training. And I got a great, super interesting question for this week's question of the week. Before we get started real fast, make sure you stay tuned to the end. I have a couple of important announcements that you're probably going to want to hear. So please stay tuned. Make sure you watch all the way to the end. And of course, as always, this is for educational purposes. It's not a substitute for health or medical advice or a therapeutic relationship. So, education, keep that in mind. Okay, so diving right in, this week's question came in actually from a professional who works in the caregiving industry. And the question was, does having raised children already qualify someone as a caregiver? So again, let me kind of rephrase that because I think I wasn't super clear maybe. So if just because someone has raised a child, does that make them immediately qualified to be a caregiver? And the answer is no. Certainly reversing that, having worked in healthcare for a long time before I ever became a mother, I definitely didn't feel qualified to have the baby handed to me for the first time, having spent a long time caring for adults. And that's simply because these two things are actually really, really different roles and responsibilities. And we could actually talk about this for a long time, but I kind of wanted to break this down into 3 reasons why having raised children does not automatically qualify someone to be a caregiver. First, it's important to know that just the same as we often say, a child is not just a tiny adult, right? So we have to provide their health care differently. An adult is not simply a large child. They have different needs, they have different roles, they have different life experiences. And so we can't say that because we understand the needs of children as they're growing up and developing, that we understand the needs of adults or older adults when they enter into a stage of their life where they're needing assistance from a caregiver. Kind of breaking that down a little bit more, we want to think about the fact that, and this is kind of the second reason, the goals of child rearing versus the goals of providing care as a caregiver are really, really different, right? If you're fortunate enough to have a healthy child, then the goal is to provide that person with the education, the tools, all the things that they're going to need to become more independent over time, right? To become self-sustaining adults. On the other hand, when we're providing care services as non-medical caregivers for people, for adults and for older adults, we have totally different goals of that non-medical caregiving, right? We want to support as much as possible maintaining independence, because these are adults that we're working with. These are people who were already independent before. So instead, it's a really different goal where we're there to help support them maintaining their independence, maintaining their roles for as long as possible. We also want to prevent things from getting worse, which is a totally different skill set and ball game from raising a child. If you have someone who is an adult, is an older adult, they were previously living independently, they didn't have any health problems, etc., then part of our goals in non-medical care is to make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to accidentally make any problems worse. Or to cause new problems, right? So that is a really important difference to keep in mind. Sorry, I made notes here so that I did, because this is a big question. I want to make sure that I'm covering it as concisely as I can, but also trying to be thorough with this answer too. So third reason, because these are not simply large children, right? Because adults and older adults have different goals of care, we actually need a completely different skill set. Dressing or assisting with dressing for a grown adult is really, really a totally different skill set than, say, dressing an infant or a young child. It requires different skills. It requires a different thought process. And it requires us to be aware of different potential risks and complications, even with something as simple as, yes, dressing, right? So no matter what the care task is that we're assisting with, it requires a different set of skills and a different knowledge base. Another good example is, if we're raising a child, we're not generally concerned about preventing bed sores, like we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. However, when we're caring for an adult or an older adult, that's absolutely something that we need to be aware of and have that kind of knowledge base and those skills, even if it's non-medical caregiving. We're not treating wounds in non-medical caregiving, but we absolutely need to know how to prevent them from happening in the first place. Let's see, what else did I have written down here? Oh, medical equipment knowledge. Again, if you're raising a child, hopefully, if this is a healthy child who doesn't need, hopefully this is a healthy child, they don't necessarily need any medical equipment. But if you're working with an adult or an older adult, there's a good chance that you do need medical equipment training. At the very least, you need to know how wheelchairs work, walkers work, hospital beds work, bedside commodes work, right? So again, it's really, really a different skill set and a different knowledge base. Now, the great news is that it is just knowledge. We can teach it. And in fact, that's what I've spent a lot of my career doing as an occupational therapist, is just simply providing this level of knowledge, providing these skill sets to other people, whether they were professional caregivers or family caregivers or, people from all walks of life. And of course, now what we do at Higher Standards Caregiver Training, as we've taken those, thousands and thousands of points of contact of doing that in person, actually providing that training hands-on in person, and we have translated it down into something that we can deliver really, really easily, through online training, through virtual live training, in ways that make that training and that education, that knowledge super accessible. So kind of in summation, does having raised children automatically qualify someone to be a caregiver? No, unfortunately, it does not. The same way that I, again, felt totally unqualified to be handed a baby for the first time, despite having a lot of experience providing hands-on care to people, to adults and older adults. But the great news is that we can teach these skills. It's just knowledge. And when we empower caregivers with that knowledge, then we actually do give them the ability to help the people they're caring for maintain their independence for longer, to help prevent things from getting worse. And that is an incredibly, incredibly important and powerful job. So we really want to make sure that we are supporting our caregivers with that knowledge, with those skill sets, so that we are arming them with the tools that they need to be successful for them and for the people that they're caring for. Quick note before I sign off today, I'm going to be moving the answers for the question of the week to Fridays. It's a little bit easier for more people to kind of join in that way. So I'm going to be moving question of the week answers to Fridays, not this week, but starting the following week. So that will be what? It will be the 27th. Friday the 27th will be the next answer to the question of the week. Please make sure that you are submitting your questions. You can either tag me in a comment. Please do tag me so I make sure and get a notification I see that. Or you can always submit your question anonymously using the submission form, okay? Anyway, thank you so much for the really, really great, interesting question that was submitted for this week. I super, super appreciate it. If you are part of a care organization and you are really thinking about ways that you can enhance the success of your organization, you can enhance the success of your caregivers, And most importantly, keep your clients with you longer because they're healthier and happier, then I'd like to invite you to a free event that I'm going to be co-hosting with a wonderful organization called StatCare. It's all about tools to help keep your clients happier, healthier, safer, and with your organization for longer. So I'm going to drop along this. There will be a link that you can register for that absolutely free event. I hope that I get to see some of you there. I'm really excited about it because, as you know, I'm kind of like this kind of my thing. I kind of care about this a lot. Anyway, until next time, y'all, I will see you for the next question of the week answer, not this Friday, but the following Friday, January 27th. Until then, please stay healthy, stay well, and most of all, take care. Bye, y'all.